Hello, Eternal Life fans. Welcome to my second Ask Me Anything. This is kind of going to be an experiment, a test, because I'm actually doing a live stream at home, and my internet sucks. So we're going to test my internet speed, okay? So let's see. I'm gonna watch this back and test it for choppiness. I'm going to test it. So if this works, it's going to be a miracle, really. And the reason I'm not using my OBS program is because, you know, I'm hearing an echo of myself. I have to fix this. I was going to okay. Look. I think the reason I'm hearing an echo of myself is because I have, yeah, it's pretty blurry, huh? Ugh. That sucks. And you guys, I'm going to have a special guest. Okay? In like 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Yeah, let's have a special guest on. And yeah, this should be fun. Yeah, just ask me any questions if you have any. In case you were wondering what I'm drinking, this is monk fruit. And it's yerba mate tea mixed together. So it's good. It's for longevity. Monk fruit is a very special food. And there's no carbs. It's non-caloric. So, all right. So, let us some questions. Levathian says, "Did I watch that link in the comment that you commented?" Oh, you know what? It was the one about the heat death of the universe. I did watch the first 4 or 5 minutes of it, and then I quit it, to be honest. I just, I couldn't handle any more of that guy's bullcrap. Joe Cool is here. He says, greetings. So this is like, is my audio completely horrible? I wish my audio at least is good. I wish my audio at least is decent. Because if it's cutting out and all this bullcrap, it's going to suck. I can handle, like, choppiness. I bet I look really choppy right now, right? But at least the audio is working. Great. Joe Cool is asking, do I think russet potatoes are healthy? For the most part, not really. Because they're a nightshade vegetable. I mean, I eat some nightshade vegetables like tomatoes and stuff, but potatoes are even worse, really, because people die from eating potatoes if they have any green spots. So you could potentially risk dying if you get a certain part of the potato that has solanine. It's very high toxic, and people have died. People have died from eating potatoes. Plus, they're just really high in carbs. Very high in carbs, so they'll take you out of ketosis. Like, I can eat a tomato and some salsa, but I wouldn't get out of ketosis. But potatoes are really, you know, they do some healthy things. Like, they have a lot of silica, I hear. But, you know, there's better things. It's kind of a wasted space in your diet. They're not that good for you. Thank you guys for coming. This is cool. Levathian says that guy was not talking bullcrap. Was he going to say that the heat death of the universe is inevitable? Because I felt like that's what it was leading up to. Super Creature says, Eternal Lifeline, I can't watch right now. How often do you live stream so I can catch the next one? Oh, right now it's really up in the air, but if this format is working on my crappy home internet, I might do this more often, you know? And it is possible that eventually I might get faster internet here. And then I can go back to the OBS, you know, streaming program, and it's better. I can do more things. But this seems to be working, so hey, it's better than nothing, I guess. And I can even have like people in the hangout. I can invite people, and I can invite Eternal Life fans. If you DM me on Twitter, if you want to be like, in a conversation or interviewed or whatever, just DM me. So, and I will vet you, see if you're worthy. Let's see. Aiden says, thoughts on the Norm Macdonald situation. What Norm Macdonald situation? I love Norm Macdonald. He is a great comedian, one of the best. In fact, I have a video about him where he's doing a stand-up routine, and he's really afraid of aging. He's really afraid of death. So I think that's pretty cool. But what situation is Norm Macdonald in? Explain to me, because I have not heard any news with him. Lilith says, "Why no cam?" What are you talking about? I do have a cam. Look right here. This is my cam. This is not good enough for you. Let's see here. Lavathian says I have to listen to the whole video. I will, maybe. What was the point of it? Was it special? What was he saying that's so good? Super Creature says, "Cool, thanks." Yeah, if I listen back and the audio is decent, I'll do more from home. So I'll do them more often. Aiden says he's in trouble with the social justice warriors for speaking up against the Me Too movement. Okay. What did he say? Oh, wait, what did he say specifically? Because I can't imagine that he was speaking like completely against the Me Too. He was probably just, I don't know. I have to know more about it. I have to research it. But, the Me Too movement it's good, but sometimes it can just be overdone, where it's like they're trusting like all the girls. If a girl accuses a guy of rape or something, they're just trusting him. Like, where's the evidence? A girl can lie about being raped. That happens. So there could be just like a witch hunt. If any guy is ever accused of rape, and it can ruin their whole life. So, like, sometimes the guys are the victim as well. But if a guy is smart, he would never put himself in a situation where a girl could falsely accuse him of rape or anything like so. So, Van Halen says, "Do you believe in ghosts?" No, I don't. Evelion does. She's a ghost hunter. And if so, could ghosts be the way of eternal life? Is it possible to learn from ghosts? I love the movie Ghosts. If there was a ghost talking to you, you better listen up, because the ghost might have something cool to say. A ghost might share secrets of eternal life, but I've never had any encounters with any ghosts. I mean, if you could be a ghost, it'd certainly be preferable than ceasing to exist. But I don't see any good evidence for ghosts yet. Unless you want to trust, Evelion has this little tool that is supposed to detect what the ghosts are saying and stuff like that. It's like a spirit box, I think. Something like that. Lilith says, "Is 50 Shades of Grey degenerate?" Well, from what I remember, there was one scene in the 50 Shades of Grey where the main guy, what's his name? I don't know the guy's name, but he found out that the girl was a virgin, right? And then he said something like, we have to rectify this situation. I think that's what he said. It's something like that. Because I even made a video on this, I think. And I didn't like that he was treating virginity as if it's like a disease that needs to be cured. That was completely degenerate. Okay, virginity is a good thing, and it should be seen as that, a good thing. And, you know, as far as the whole bondage thing, is that really degenerate? You know, as long as it's in a committed marriage, I don't see the problem of it. Who is it hurting? You know, if that's people's fetish, that's fine. I don't. There's so many worse things that it feels weird to kind of demonize that and focus on that. Because, I mean, take just the grossest sex act that it's so gross that I don't even want to name it. It's like Voldemort. It shouldn't even be spoken. Shouldn't even be said. That's way worse than like weird fetishes like, you know, bondage or something. Like, that's not that bad, but it's like, let's judge the worst sex acts first, you know? Oh, and you know, the other thing about 50 Shades of Grey, at least they got married. I think in the second or third film, they got married, right? So it could be way worse, honestly. Oh, I'm supposed to invite my special guest on. Forgot. I was getting so carried away with all these cool questions. Okay, let's give it 4 more minutes of questions, and then I'll invite my special guest because I like these questions. But what if you could slowly replace your brain? Okay, before I go, I heard from one of your videos that you don't think storing your mind in a computer is an option. You said that it would just be a copy. Yes, that's correct. I don't think we can transfer our consciousness. So, but what if you slowly replace your brain with computer parts piece by piece? Yeah, I explained this in one of my videos. It's more likely to transfer your consciousness if the replacement is slow enough, like neuron by neuron type of thing. But even that, there might be parts of the brain that if you were to replace them, you lose your consciousness. Like, let's say hypothetically, our consciousness, or at least a part of our consciousness, is stored in the pineal gland. I'm just throwing that out there as a hypothesis. It's possible. So there might be no way to replace the pineal gland. You know, it has been called the seat of the soul. Maybe there's something to that. Super Creature says, so that you won't lose your consciousness, and eventually you'll have your mind in a computer without losing your sense of self. Well, that would be awesome. Unfortunately, even the very nature of being in a computer puts you at a lot of other risks. A virus could come by and wipe you out. A hacker could come by and erase you, just erase the data. If you're just in a computer, you're essentially just data. You're ones and zeros at that point, and someone can just wipe you out with a computer code. So it's dangerous. How come I never talk about politics? And I don't know. It's not my main thing. I'm into eternal life, and politics is, it's so divisive. But I will, if need be. If I need to support Trump again, I'll do it. Joe Cool says, another question. I remember you said you got a shipment of salmon eggs a while ago. Do you recommend them or notice any benefits? I was considering ordering some. You know, I can't say I've noticed any benefits. They were very pricey, which is annoying. But on the bright side, I didn't have to buy other omega-3 supplements, which are also really expensive. In fact, more expensive, because I've done the research, and like krill oil and all these really high-end like fish oil supplements, they're really freaking expensive. So it actually was cheaper just to get the salmon eggs, because you get more DHA and EPA for your money. And it's raw, it's unadulterated, it's pure. They were really salty, so I did end up having to soak them in water and remove the salt. I gave them like several water baths. If they were just really freaking salty, I couldn't stand it. So I ended up, I recommend them, really. I think they're really good for you. I can't say I've noticed anything, but what do you think of my brain? Is it working good? I got them because I'm trying to repair like brain damage. I think I'm a brain damaged individual. Are you all right, Rowan? You sound like you're stressed out. I'm always stressed out, man. Maybe I'm stressed out because I'm hearing myself in an echo right now. Which I literally am hearing an echo of mine. I don't know why. I haven't figured it out. I'll figure it out next time. Joe Cool says, thought they were unsalted. No, they were salted. They were pretty salty, but, you know. I like to limit the salt. All right. Somebody says, do I like chocolate? Of course. I am Willy Wonka. How could I not love chocolate? Do you do any prepping? I'm always prepping. That's part of being an Eternal Life fan. The video has to do with what will happen in the universe in the long term, and it has to do with the video you made. Okay. All right, shall we invite my special guest? Let's do it. I like this. Keep calm and be Willy Wonka. How about keep stressed and be Willy Wonka? The stress keeps me going. It's like the fear of death, you know. It's a superpower. All right, I'm going to invite my special guest. Here we go. All right. Invitation link has been sent. And if this works out, like, I'll do this like as a regular thing. I want to invite a bunch of Eternal Life fans, and we could just talk. We could do these more often. Now that I can do them from home, I can just invite a bunch of Eternal Life fans, and we could talk about stuff, you know? For the longest time, I was not doing them at home because I was convinced my internet speed was so bad that I couldn't do it. That's what I was convinced of. Because I did one of these before at home, and I remember watching the video back, and the audio was choppy. The audio was chopping out and stuff like that.
Hey, what's up?
Alex is here. Hi, Alex.
I'm by my headphones. Here they are. Oh, shoot. I'm on the charge because they're Bluetooth, dual purpose. You know the deal. You know the rigmarole.
Awesome. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you too, my dude.
Looking forward to a cool conversation.
Heck yeah, man. I've been watching your videos for a while, a couple months now. It's pretty sweet.
Awesome.
It's good to see somebody else out there who's excited to live longer than, you know, just a couple, decades or whatever, you know what I mean?
Heck yeah.
You know
I say, you know, you cannot accept anything less than eternal life. That's what I say.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Heck yeah, man. Is my camera pretty good? We good over here?
Yeah, you're good. Your audio's good. Everything. So
Sweet.
Let's start off. I wanted to ask you, because I know I want to talk about your inventions, and I want to talk about the thing you're working on. I think it's the soul. What is that? The soul thing? What's that called?
What are we talking about? Sorry, I was
you had an invention called the soul something.
Oh, yeah, that soul antenna. Okay, so
The soul antenna. We're gonna have to talk about that.
yeah. So
But first, I want to ask you just a simple question.
mhm.
I know you want to live forever, so I don't need to ask you that, right?
Right.
Or do you? Or do you not want to live forever?
I absolutely want to live forever, man. Look, I overdosed in 2010 at the Bonnaroo Music Festival, and I fell into myself and went to a pit, a black pit, and it was just infinite darkness. It was Sheol from the Bible, I'm telling you. And then I prayed down there, and I was able to somehow like get up back into my body. I think God did it actually. And ever since then, I've not wanted to die since. I don't want to go back. It sucks. It's infinite fear that just evaporates at your being. So I don't want to go back to that.
Wow.
Low-key.
Is that had something to do with? So you used to be an atheist, right? Now you believe in God.
I did used to be
very
an
similar to
atheist.
me.
I was an atheist, and then I started getting into more like esoteric, like magic stuff. And that's when I had that whole experience where I died, and then that like reset everything for me, like the whole paradigm.
So it had to do with your drug overdose, and that's what caused you to believe in God?
Yeah, I drank like half a fifth of Jim Beam. I did 8 hits of acid. I did like a gram of some mystery powder I got off some guy that was walking around. You know what I mean? I don't even know what it was. So it could have been 2CB. It could have been anything.
And what was the drug you overdosed on?
It was all that stuff.
Okay, whoa. Like, so you used to be a total druggie.
I did used to be a total druggie. And now the only thing I do is smoke weed. It's the only thing I still do. And that's, you know, anxiety related and stuff. So.
That you chose good because CBD oil is something I take for anxiety myself.
Yeah, good. It's good. It works. It works. I just smoke it up. I'm feeling good, chilling out. Heck yeah.
So now would you call yourself more of a health-oriented person? Are you doing stuff for your health?
Yeah, recently, since Jordan Peterson endorsed that carnivore diet, I've been trying to be more meat-focused in my diet, and it's actually been helping me feel a lot better, get up in the morning. So it's like it's actually helping me. So I'm taking that train, seeing how it rides.
Awesome. Do you eat pork?
Not usually. Not maybe in hot dogs. I have a weakness for chili dogs. I love them.
So good that you don't eat pork a lot because
I eat a lot of pork now.
If you eat any pork, I would recommend not eating any pork. Just a friendly piece of advice.
I don't even know. I mean, Sonic dogs, are they pork or are they beef? They might not even be pork. I don't know.
I don't know.
That'd be the only source. I don't eat a lot of bacon. Like it's a very rare instance that I would come in contact with any kind of pork. Really. I don't anyway. And you know, I have a sort of a Judaic sort of stance, so I just avoid pork as a principle in general, you know. Yeah. Okay,
cool. So I noticed on your Twitter bio you had another name for Jesus, because I looked it up, I googled it. What was that name? I don't even know what that is.
Yeshua, or Yahshua, and depending on how you want to pronounce it.
Okay, so do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe that whole thing, that he died on the cross and everything?
Okay, so what I believe about Jesus is kind of, it's different from the normal interpretation. So I do think Jesus was special. I do think it was a virgin birth, and that does happen in animals. That's been proven. It's happened. I've seen it with snakes. You know, it happens in the animal kingdom. So I think there was a one-off condition where the universe is able to iterate in on itself. You're familiar with fractals at all?
Fractals?
Yeah, fractals.
Is that like a certain pattern of thing in nature? I don't know what that is now.
Yeah, so a fractal, it's a recursive algorithm that's mapped to a coordinate plane of some sort that generates this geometric structure that's self-iterative. So the structure has itself in itself all the way down. The Triforce is like a perfect basic example of a simple recursive fractal. The universe is something far more complex, more like the Mandelbrot on crack. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And so, so anyway, the point of that is the universe being recursive and repeating itself in itself, there has to be a point in like the human part of that geometry that is the embodiment in the universe, and that seems to be Christ because he's the most focused on human and human history. He's got that weird thing with the Shroud of Turin and how that thing got legitimized with later research that was done more recently. There's like, and so there's a lot with Christ, and I think like, here's my theory. Here's a hypothesis, even maybe not even a theory. That when he died on the cross, that his soul went to Sheol, that thing I experienced my overdose, that went there, but he was able to beat it and imprint himself on it, and that caused the Big Bang, which then brought about reality outside time-space. As a hypothesis.
That's pretty deep. So I wanted to ask you, like, what's your conception of God? Because I'm sure if you've been watching my videos, you've heard my idea of like fearing the hypothetical God, kind of living your life as though you're being watched, you might be judged, and all this kind of hypothetical things that I would recommend people to do as a precaution. Like, be afraid of the hypothetical God because there might be this judgment and there might be this test. What do you think of that? Are you like a God-fearing person, would you call yourself? Or
I am, man. He sees. He sleeps, but we live in his dreams, so he sees it all. He's here, you know what I'm saying? The way Genesis reads is on the seventh day he rested. He went to sleep. So what that means is right now the reason why God isn't more like present in our face is because he's at rest right now. And, you know, if you go in Genesis, when you look at like the Adam and Eve account, he was more present in that tale, and I think it's all very symbolic, and it has to do with the universe and the universal consciousness, and like how close humanity is connected to that universal consciousness. If you look around yourself in the world, you ever notice how sometimes things stick out that will be it'll be an odd coincidence with your life? You know what I mean? There's a good example where a kid is in a class holding up a Sharpie, and there's this Asian teacher with a pink jacket writing on the board, and the Sharpie looks like the teacher. You know what I'm saying? And that's an example of that. And it's all fractals. You know what I mean?
So, like, that's kind of like
it's like seeing it in the Matrix.
It's like a glitch in the Matrix, or like a serendipity, or like
you understand the language of the fractals, and you can communicate with it. And yeah.
Wow.
And so there's a sort of, I don't know, then it starts going into like magical sort of ideas, you know what I mean? Like, could you hack the reality? And magical in quotes. Magic is what technology that we don't understand yet, right?
So like when it comes to God, how so you were an atheist, now you believe in God, has it changed the way you live? Or are you starting to like come up with this like set of rules? Like, I like to say, like, we have to guess the rules of the hypothetical God and create this strict set of rules and follow them. What are you doing as far as like, how has it changed you that now you believe in God?
Well, here's how it's mainly changed me is I find myself focused on wanting to help people, to bail them out of suffering is the ultimate goal. You know what I mean? And so that's the point of all this stuff, is because I want to end death. I want to put an end to death. So I'm trying to just create a lifeboat so that when people's corpses fail, they can at least not have to go to the pit. I mean, if they have to live in a robot, like, you know, for a little bit, that could be sustainable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to talk about your ideas of resurrection, because that's definitely something you're into, just from looking at some of your videos. Like, I have a friend who had this really cool idea, Sarah, and she talked about having a resurrection buddy. So, like, you know, you basically tell your friend what they would do in the scenario that you were to die. And then you they have this whole protocol to follow and things to try to resurrect you. And I had a lot more like health oriented things, like physical things, such as like, you know, taking cayenne pepper. And I had a whole list of things people could potentially do to resurrect themselves. Yeah. But hers was more like religiously oriented, as far as like, okay, taking the person's hand and doing prayers, which I think is good too. It can't, it can only help, right?
When I was in that pit, I was praying down there, and it felt like I was praying for an eternity. And I think that's what ultimately, you know, I think that's God found a place to take mercy on me in that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I think that's what it was.
Do you pray often?
Often, all the time.
All the time.
I'm all the time praying, man. All the time praying.
Are your prayers ever answered? Has there ever been an instance where it's like you prayed something and like totally like you felt like it got answered?
Yeah, my prayers, you know, are answered every day. I wake up and I'm still breathing. You know what I mean? My family's still there. You know, and I know, you know, everything comes to an end at some point. So it's like, it's scary, you know. It's scary to think about. My family could die at any moment. I could die at any moment. Any of us could die at any moment. That is a horrifying thought. You know what I mean? So as long as everybody's okay, then I'm happy. You know what I mean? And that's my prayer. That's my prayer's answer right there.
I like that. I pray myself too. I even prayed as an atheist, to be honest. Even when I was an atheist, I prayed
When
because
I was an atheist, I did because I was mad. I was mad, and I still believed in God. I just blamed him for everything. That's how it was. But I didn't admit that. I would just try to deny him because I knew that would hurt him. I think that's the idea. You know what I mean?
Wow. So you think, looking back, even when you were an atheist, you weren't really an atheist? You actually did believe in God? Then, so you were never an atheist, is what you're saying?
But you couldn't tell me that, though. You couldn't have told me that then. Okay. If you would have said something like that, I would have denied it. You know what I mean?
I see. So
no.
So you think you were kind of like fooling yourself?
Fooling myself was the best
into
way.
Thinking you were an atheist.
Yeah, I used to be engaged in homosexuality, and it was the same mindset. That's a bomb to drop. How about that?
Oh wow! So yeah, I did see in one of your videos you talked about Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, I mean, that was the ultimate realization. That was the ultimate realization. It's non-reproductive. It's going to end the human species.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have to reproduce. We have to make more of ourselves to continue the work we're doing. You know what I mean? And
so, would you call yourself straight now or
recovered?
So, did you undergo a conversion therapy, like a?
No, it was self-induced.
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 Did you pray to remove those?
It had to do with that trip. It had to do with when I went to the pit.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, good for you.
Everything. I stopped drinking. I stopped doing drugs. I stopped everything after that experience. I was done with all of it. And you know, I've never been more focused on a singular goal than this. You know what I mean?
Well, good for you.
That's since 2010. It's like been 8 years now. I've just been studying and working and trying to drill it out. You know.
I think that's really awesome, and I think that we in the modern age need to start really promoting like a gay conversion therapy, like ones that actually work. And like yourself, like, you know, you were able to do a self-induced conversion therapy, and like, this is good. Like, we need to start telling gay.
I'm for therapy because I think it can work because it's a mindset. It really is all in the mind. You control what you do at the end of the day. Life is a series of choices that you make. You know what I mean? Everything you do is an action that you've chosen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like taking responsibility for everything. Like,
yeah, and then just trying to. It's the Jordan B. Peterson kind of motto of cleaning your room. You know what I mean? You just gotta tidy yourself up. You know? But
what about the attraction itself, though? It's like same-sex attraction. Do you think that's really in a person's control? Because I feel like
I don't. I think because I think some males are still attractive. But that doesn't mean that I have to engage in any sort of inappropriate behavior. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't mean that I have to do something that goes against nature. You know what I mean? Because there is something inside of me that says don't do that. I think what it is a confusion of the beauty of the human form itself with sexual attraction, which are two different things. Like, you can find beauty in art, beauty in a landscape. That doesn't mean you want to put your junk in it. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think that there's any maybe like physiological could like maybe same-sex attraction maybe could sometimes be caused by, like, I don't know, some kind of hormonal imbalance or some kind of toxicity? I've heard different theories. I've heard even parasites, a parasite infection
might knock your systems out of whack, and when your systems are out of whack, you can do all sorts of stuff wrong.
Yeah, because there's so many like drugs and stuff in the water supply, and like you know, there's birth controls in the water supply.
Atrazine, that's a real thing. The frogs they're really
Alex Jones turning the frogs gay. It's true. It's true.
It's true. Wow. Everything he says is true. It's just over the top with the theatrics, I think. You know what I mean? That's the only thing. But yeah, you know, Alex Jones, he gets his information from good sources. I check what he's doing. I look into it. I don't let nothing Alex Jones says slip through the cracks. You know what I mean? I always check everybody. You know?
That's excellent. Me too. I take a lot of what he's.
You gotta check Chinkyuker because I used to love the Young Turks back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like before the trip, and then after the trip, I didn't like him anymore.
Wow, you really got awakened there.
Yeah. It was an awakening. I was like, whoa, this guy he didn't like America too much, does he? You know, that's the ultimate conclusion I had to draw about Cenk and the Young Turks, that they're not really a fan of like the United States as a corporation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm a huge U.S. fan. I got my U.S. hat. You know what I'm saying? I got my.
Oh yeah, you're American a patriot. Flag. I saw your Twitter. You're at like posting patriotic Trump stuff and everything. Like,
I love it.
Politically, I think we're really aligned. Like you said, you're a capitalist. You know, me too.
Yeah, man. You gotta have free trade. You gotta be able to make stuff and then sell it to people. People want stuff. They have money. You have hands. You can make stuff.
Yeah,
it just makes sense. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you do that? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Stop people from doing that. Silly.
So, like, you were in the military. I wanted to ask if you had any close calls with death, because that's a scary thing. I mean, being in the military, wow.
Well, I did, but it wasn't because I was out in the field or nothing. I actually never went overseas. I got hit by a truck on leave. That's what happened. That's why I'm a disabled veteran now. I was on leave. I was going to see my family. I was at this gas station smoking my cigarette. And some crazy corrections officer from one of the local prison systems pulled her Ford F-150 Harley Davidson edition and crushed me up against this concrete pole. It broke my collarbone. I still got a lump there. I have all these aches and stuff from it. So that's another fear, is that some of those injuries are going to catch up. So I got to hurry up and finish this. You know what I mean?
Whoa. So, like, your injuries are so bad, you think that they might, like, jeopardize your longevity in some way? You think they're gonna?
Yeah. I mean, there's a probability that it could. You know what I mean?
Are there any like physical symptoms you're having to deal with on a daily basis? Any pain, stuff like that?
Migraines. I got migraines, back aches, shoulder going ham. You know, I got knee problems from carrying sandbags and training, but that's a separate issue. You know what I mean?
Whoa. How often do you get migraines? I'm a migraine sufferer myself. I get migraines like about once a month or something, but
yeah, I would say about that. And usually it's triggered by pillows. I can't sleep on pillows. I have to lay flat. If I sleep on a pillow the next day, I can almost guarantee my shit's gonna hurt, man.
Whoa! I actually sleep without a pillow as well.
Wow, man, yeah. We're like on the same page with that.
Yeah, I gave up pillows a long time ago. I don't like that crook in my neck kind of feeling. Like it.
It hurts. It hurts me, man, real bad. It puts me. I have to take an ibuprofen and take a hot ass shower. That's the only way to get rid of it. You know what I mean? And then like after 45 minutes, when the ibuprofen's kicked in, and I've heard all the things about ibuprofen. It's kind of toxic. You know what I mean? People have even died from it. So it's spooky, but it's the thing that works. So it's like when you're in pain, you know, you're willing to roll the dice on some ibuprofen. It's not a huge probability, but people have had problems. There's horror stories out there about ibuprofen. To be careful.
Yeah, migraines suck. I mean, how often? I mean, how long are your migraines? When you get a migraine, like mine are 2 days. 2 days.
It can last that long, and I have to hit the bed. I have to like get the flat going, and for at least a little while, and then get the, like I said, the ibuprofen, hot shower, a massage setting. That's important. The massage setting and the hot shower, you let that shit just slam into your back, just, you know what I'm saying, for like 30 minutes, and then with the ibuprofen, then by the time you get out, you're all clean and it feels a lot better. So.
Wow, I'm really lucky because I have a local hot springs where I can go and just have like hot springs water.
Just opens up those capillaries. I think it's part of it. I think something has to do with circulation and muscles cramping up, probably because of ATP type related issues. You know what I mean? So whenever you're able to use heat to open up all those vessels, I'm sure it helps quite a bit.
Yeah. Do you have like a shower filter? Because if you're into taking like hot showers, make sure you filter out that chlorine, because
I don't have a shower filter. See, right now I'm living with my sister. I'm renting a room at her house. So so I don't know if she would let me do that, but maybe. I don't know.
Because I'm telling you, like, they know, like, now if you take really hot showers with tap water, you're just dosing yourself with high amounts of chlorine. It turns into a gas. So you're absorbing it through your skin, but even more so, you're breathing chlorine gas, and it ends up scarring your arteries. Chlorine really damages the arteries, and it can actually cause heart disease.
So it's going to cause the problems to get worse in the long term. Is what you're saying, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man. Oh man. So I gotta get a shower. I gotta get a filter on that shower.
Yeah.
Shoot.
At the very least, chlorine. It would ideally you'd want to get
here too. We got our water tested, and it tested pretty hard. So
yeah,
it's very calcified at the very least. You know what I mean?
Ideally, you'd want to get the fluoride out as well, but that's even harder. Most shower filters don't even filter out.
Gotta get that Alexapure from my man Alex Jones. He's got
he sells shower filters?
I should have known. He might, but he does sell water filters that filter out fluoride. He's the only one I know who has. To be honest, I can't find any fluoride, filters out there. I'm sure they exist, but his is the most prominent, at least. You know what I mean?
So like on your Twitter, I want to ask you about vampires because you have a vampire pic, like you have the fangs on your Twitter bio. So, are you like a vampire fan like me?
I love vampires. Vampires are cool. I like a vampire anime. I love Interview with a Vampire. I love all the Anne Rice stuff. It's all great. It's great. It's great. Just not Twilight. Twilight's a little off.
Twilight's my favorite.
Oh no!
I love Twilight.
But it's not violent enough. Nobody gets their head crushed or nothing. Nobody gets set on fire. Where's the fire?
It's totally violent. In one of the movies, one of the good vampires, Carlisle, the head of the Cullen family, he has his head decapitated.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll check it out then. Maybe I'll give it a chance for you.
It's what I like about it
because I heard a lot of bad shit in high school about it. Everybody was dogging it, and I was like, stay away from that.
Oh yeah,
stay away from that. I'll give it a chance though. I'll give it a chance. You've opened my eyes on that. I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, it's the herd mentality. People just cool. People they hop on the Twilight hating bandwagon, really.
Yeah. And
people just preach so much against Twilight when they have never even seen it or something. It's just ridiculous.
Man.
But I like it because it has moral vampires. Like they're moral. They're
I like that.
They're ethical.
Underworld's pretty hardcore. Not very moral. I mean, I guess they're moral in a way. They're just fighting for their cause or whatever. Vampires. Underworld series. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about.
Underworld. It vaguely rings. It vaguely rings a bell.
It's so much.
I know that there's that other. Do you remember? Do you know the vampire film? I think it's called Queen of the Damned or something.
I love Queen of the Damned. Such a good movie. Oh, yeah. And the statue that comes to life. How awesome is that? It's like
and there was like the main girl. I think the vampire queen girl. She was like a singer, and she died.
Yeah. In
some tragic way. I forgot how. Was it a plane crash or something? I don't know.
Yeah, Leah. She died in a plane crash.
Yeah, Leah. Mm-hmm.
Sad, man. Shoot. Sad days.
Yeah, but you got to watch Twilight. So you haven't even seen the first film, or did you?
No. I watched. I think I might have, but I was probably stoned in high school, so I've been drunk. I probably don't remember. And high school was a rough time for me. I did a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, pretty. You know what I'm saying? Pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy. Pretty wild lifestyle.
I was such a trash kid. I was such like a trashy guy. I can put it that way. That's fair. I was just like slumming around, wandering from friends to friends, getting drunk and engaged in all sorts of immoral behavior. It was very terrible.
Yeah. Well,
terrible. Do not approve.
It's good that but now looking back, you can recognize and and you've changed your ways, and that's
amen, brother. Amen.
That's what it's about.
That's what it's about. You gotta pick yourself up at the collar. You gotta straighten yourself out. I mean, once you're faced in the pit of death, then you gotta make a choice. Like the choice becomes easy to make. You know what I mean? And it's just not until you reach that point of total catastrophe when you've reached rock bottom. It's not until you're presented with that you're able to then say, okay, I'm doing something wrong. I gotta flip this around. And then, everything starts working out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of people, they'll never change. It's like they're too stubborn. It's like they love whatever their sinful lifestyle of their degeneracy and
the self-abuse, the self-hatred. It's all a manifestation of self-hatred.
Yeah. Eternal life really changes, though. Eternal life changes things. Like if that's why I want everyone to kind of get on board the whole eternal life goal, because once eternal life is your goal, everything changes, and it's like you're totally
everything else. Everything else becomes almost pointless except for this one goal. It's the only thing that matters, because if you don't achieve it, then everything is for nothing. And it's you have I've watched your videos, man. You're a smart guy. You're a smart guy. That's why I reached when I you know what I'm saying, when I made these little clips, I had to reach out to you with that, because I felt like something that you should hear about. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you did. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about your soul antenna some more. But like,
you're one of the few people that feels that way, though. It's so crazy how like the self-loathing that people have, where they would want to see themselves destroyed. You know what I mean? It's like I had somebody tell me it was evil to want to chase immortality. Evil. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Yeah.
I've had a lot of people tell me it's just very selfish, but I've never heard like evil. That's crazy.
He said that was unnatural, that everybody has to die, and that was evil for me to want to be immortal.
Yeah. Well, you know where they're getting this from? They're getting this from all the conditioning and brainwashing of Hollywood, and they have
ultimately the devil. It ultimately comes from the spirit of death itself that goes all the way to before the Big Bang, when there's nothing. You know what I mean? It's a manifestation of that emptiness just coming forward in people's personalities, because we live on the verge of infinity of nothing. We're a manifestation of these two forces, and so we have each in us. You know what I mean? And so that comes out in that self-defeating kind of behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Hollywood is always just like, having always the evil character that wants immortality. Like Voldemort. I always come back to Voldemort.
They always have those rituals in Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? Always have those sort of Saturnalian rituals. You know what I mean?
Like Saturnalian rituals. Is that like
pagan stuff?
Like the spirit cooking and stuff, like the
Baphomet, the Saturn,
Moloch, the worshiping of Moloch in the forest,
sacrificing. And that's real. It's there. It's there. I've studied it. I've checked it out, man. In my long theological journey, I've had my touch with it. I was into Hermeticism. I was into OTO. I was into all that stuff. You know what I mean?
OTO. I've never heard of that one.
The Order of Thelema.
Oh, what's that?
OTO. That's Aleister Crowley and.
So you were into like Satanism at one point.
I was into some dark stuff. It's with Crowley is more about like ancient paganism and death gods and that, and summoning demons and commanding demons by the authorities of these. So it's all like sigil magic. Is what it was. Aleister Crowley was like the founder of sigil magic.
And he's in like the sex magic, right? Like
sex magic. He espoused that really heavily. That was like the center of his thing, and like tantra and all that sort of what's it? Hindu sort of stuff. Or is that Hindu or is that something else?
Was it Aleister Crowley that came up with the whole "do what thou wilt"? There's that "do what thou wilt" saying.
Yes, the whole of the law, and that's the one thing I agree with. I think at the end of this whole program, that will be this case. You know what I mean? Because we'll have perfection so inbuilt that we can do whatever we want, and we won't have the will to violate each other's will. You know what I'm saying? So it'll be a perfect inward maintenance of liberty. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, so you're basically saying that once we create like some kind of utopia, that people won't even want to hurt each other.
Exactly.
That would be ideal.
There's what was I gonna say there? I forgot. Let's see. Talking about, what were you gonna say? What were you saying?
I was just going down that whole "do what thou wilt" track of mine. Yeah. It's such a that philosophy. The way most people interpret it is just so sick and twisted and evil.
The YOLO philosophy.
YOLO
but even that, you can take that two ways. You can take YOLO to mean do whatever you want and destroy yourself, or you can take YOLO to mean you only get one life, so preserve it. You know what I mean? Oh
yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true. Actually, I've used it in that context before. I've kind of did the twist on it, but the way most people interpret this stuff is just it's sick. it's satanic. It's fearless. It's not having any fear of the hypothetical God, you know?
Yeah, or just reality, which I think are the same, one and the same kind of thing. You know, the universal consciousness and the universe itself. You know what I mean? People don't have any respect for what's going on around them. We could be crushed by a meteor. We could be blasted away by a pulsar beam from a distant, you know, exploded, collapsed star. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And never see it coming because we got this light speed pulsar beam coming our way with no way to detect it, and it would just erase the Earth in a flash, and we would never see it coming. We would never even know. And that's how serious it is out here. You know what I mean? It's a blessing of God that any of us are alive right now. It really is. Like the odds of any of us existing are almost nothing out here in this crazy Wild West sort of planets colliding sort of situation we're in. You know what I mean?
It's scary. So
out there
many
in the stars, man, it's Armageddon already. Out there in the stars, there's black holes smacking into each other. The Armageddon's already at hand. You know what I mean? We're just lucky to be in a peaceful spot in the eye of the storm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the heat death of the universe?
I agree with you that it can be prevented. That it can be stopped. I think that's
absolutely
a good take. I mean, why not? Why not? Especially if we can live forever and we have all these advanced technologies. This stuff's going to explode exponentially. So eventually, that's not even going to be a problem. By the time it comes to that, it will probably have already solved it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the universe's own self-preservation measures. I don't think the universe can be defeated. I don't think it's collapsing in on itself. I think it's going to just keep expanding internally, and it's going to make sure it does by us, using us as a key component in that chemical reaction.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on death when you were a kid versus now. Have they changed? Like, were you?
I don't think I believed I could die when I was a kid.
Really?
I believed I was already an immortal when I was a kid. And then it wasn't until I snapped my arm backwards when I was 16 and I had to get reconstructive surgery on my elbow. I can show you the scar. Let me show you. Let me get you up in there. Like right there, you can see.
Whoa.
I had to call in like a specialist and stuff to reconstruct my arm. And that was the first taste of death that I ever got in my life. And that's when I started the fear came in. But it wasn't until 2010 when I had that overdose that really changed my life, that I really okay, hell is a thing. This is all real. I'm not just in a video game. Like, I got to get real. You know what I mean? I'm not discounting simulation theory, but you know what I mean? Like, this isn't a toy, is what I'm trying to get at. It's a that you're going to have to exist in. You know what I mean?
So hell, let's talk about that. That's interesting. I really want hell to exist. I want there to be a hell because
man, the pit, it burns you with fear, man. That's how it works. It's black. It's just infinite blackness that burns you with fear, and it's darker than the darkest. It's like if space had nothing in it. You know what I mean?
Wow. So you, what do you think? Who goes to hell?
Everybody goes to hell.
Everybody.
When you die, your quantum field disconnects from your sensory organs, so you no longer have any ability to see, taste, feel, touch. You're totally separated. I don't know. Dang, I wish I could drag this chalkboard. I have this little diagram of this very thought over here, but it's in. Maybe I can just grab the webcam. Hold on. Bear with me. I'm gonna drag you over here real quick. Let's see. Can you see this pretty good? This stuff I got going on?
Yeah, I see it.
So there's like a line here. Okay. So these lines represent consciousness, and where the line is, that's where the human bodies are. That's where human beings exist. So when you die, you're essentially you're getting cut off, and you're in the zero zone. You're in this side of the thing, and you're trapped there. And you're still consciousness, but you're just cut off from everything. You know what I mean? This up here, this is where your consciousness comes from, and everything loops back around in this big spiraling toroidal shape. You know what I mean? As far as the general idea of consciousness and how it works in that time stream. You know what I mean?
So you're saying you only go to hell if you die, but if you never die, you never have to go to hell.
Exactly. Heaven is a place here in the future when we have the technology for resurrection and immortality at hand. And I think resurrection is the technology. The same technology I'm going to use to preserve our lives is the technology I'm going to use to bring back the dead. So it's more than just being immortal. It's saving those who've already failed to live. Let me address this a bit here.
You think you can bring? You think you'll be able to bring back like dead people that died a long time ago, like quantum archaeology? Yes. That's quantum archaeology.
Because that chip, it's like an antenna that you can tune like a radio. So you'll be able to tune anybody that ever existed, and you'll be able to get them in. You might be able to tune in fictional characters, get Sonic the Hedgehog out here, dude. I'm not kidding.
So, once you have this technology, you think, I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical of this quantum archaeology. I always have been. I'm always like, okay, how are these people going to bring back dead people that have died a long time ago? Well, I can see maybe if you had the power of God or something, maybe.
Well, consider this. If you have an antenna, right? And you have this quantum field around you, and the purpose of this quantum antenna in your brain is to interface with that field and communicate data. All you have to do to reintroduce that field to reality, which is your soul, to reality, is to emulate that function of that antenna again. If you can replicate that, then you have a new body. And then it's just a matter of adding on the features that you need to be a whole person again. You know what I'm saying? Which is all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, let's say if you were to have this technology, you could bring people back from the dead. Who would you bring back? Would you bring back like evil people? Like let's say like Hitler. Sure. Would you ever bring back all the evil people?
Why not? Because they're not going to be the person they were when they left, and that's for sure. First off, their spirit is going to be purified by the hellfire, by the black hellfire of Sheol. So you can trust that they're going to have a spirit of redemption when they come back from that. That's one thing, and that's the most important thing. Everybody has a soul that is a reflection of God. And so even though their flesh causes them to stray and do evil, the soul is still holy. There's still something good in the soul. You know what I'm saying? So you bring the soul back to a body that has perfect knowledge and the perfect ability to compute without the sort of hardware limitations of broken flesh that come out as genocide and murder and these sorts of things. You know what I mean? Then there's no reason not to bring them back, because they're not going to be like that anymore. They're going to be a perfectly normal in that sense, you know. I mean, not normal to these standards, but normal to the robot people standards. You know what I mean? And that'd be fun.
So, do you think let's say, do you think this technology, this quantum archaeology, like if you extrapolate into the future, as technology exponentially increases, do you think it's basically inevitable that we're eventually going to be able to resurrect people, and then eventually everyone's going to be resurrected?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. It's inevitable.
So you think really it's inevitable that everyone is going to live forever?
It's absolutely inevitable. I can't see any way around it. The technological evolution that's taking place, it's just happening. So it's just, it is, you know. I challenge anyone out there to debunk the idea. I challenge anyone.
So if you think everybody is going to live forever, and we're talking like in a good state, like not even burning in hell forever, but like living basically, essentially
hell is eternal, but it's eternal because it's timeless, not because it's an infinite time. It has zero time that you just experience as a one sort of infinite unit. You know what I mean?
So it's essentially, you think everyone is going to end up in like a utopian eternal life paradise? Yeah.
I do. That's what I see happening.
That is very optimistic.
Yeah, man. I think it's inevitable. I don't see a way around it. Like thinking about it, you know what I mean? I poked at the idea. I can't break it apart.
I mean, I guess that would be good. I can't. I mean, that'd be very good.
I think you're right about the flesh, though. I think the flesh is, I think one that the same quantum archaeology can bring back the flesh you once had, but perfect it. And I think that's a technology that we'll see after the robot people technology comes into place. So the robo people, then the flesh, the immortal, like flesh, like God beings will come after that. And then, I don't know, energy beings? I don't know what's after that. I can't even predict. I suppose at the end of this whole equation, we're just going to return to the source consciousness. That we're going to merge back with God and restart the whole cycle.
So, this is a very different type of perspective you have than mine. Mine is a very kind of fearful attitude
I'm
that
afraid. Sheol sucks, dude. Sheol's not any place you want to go to. And once you're down there, when I was down there, it was like an eternity of prayer that I was doing down there. And it was like time reached out and grabbed me out of the emptiness, out of the void. This is the weirdest thing. I can't even describe because it's not something you can experience in the limited paradigm of 3D time space. You know what I mean? This is like some trans-time, trans-spatial sort of event that I experienced.
So what you fear about death isn't really death because you don't think you're ever going to really die. What you fear about death is more of like a kind of suffering in hell.
It's pure suffering. It's pure absolute suffering. So yeah, I fear it. I fear it absolutely. And when you're there, it's not like you can just swim out of there, you know? You're stuck and you're just gonna hurt for a long time. It really sucks. It really does. That was what I experienced anyway, you know. It's the thing about the sorts of things, like if you have like a trip or an overdose or you have these near-death experiences, you can't like prove it, but I'll give you that testimony at least, you know what I mean? I wish I could prove it. You know, I hope to math. That's the thing. That's a side project I'm doing. It's trying to prove my experiences with mathematics to show like this is what does happen because this is what the numbers say it happens. You know what I mean?
So, am I correct in my assessment that you don't really fear ceasing to exist because you don't even think that's an option, right?
I don't think your consciousness ever goes away. I think because their consciousness is a reflection of the eternal consciousness that fuels the whole engine. I think that you're just stuck you're stuck in whatever you're stuck in. You know what I mean? You are where you are, and that's it. You know what I mean? I mean, you can do things. I'm not saying you can't do things, but if you're in hell, for instance, you're stuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's actually what the type of belief system you have is actually very similar to what a lot of Mormons believe. Because I was just talking to a bunch of Mormons. I went to a Mormon wedding, and I was talking to some of the Mormons.
I was part of the Mormon church once. I wasn't deep in it. I was a passive member, and it was when I was in the army. A friend of mine was a Mormon, and he got me to go there, and I got ordained as a priest because I was of the right age to be a priest.
Oh wow!
So now I'm a Mormon priest. Look at me.
So I wonder if
I like Mormons. Mormons are some of the sweetest people I've ever met. Man.
Yeah, so I wonder if any of this type of philosophy you have and belief system is like residual from Mormonism, like you're picking up on some of the Mormon ideas.
Maybe. I mean, maybe some of that stuff rang true and stuck, and it's just maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, because
I'd say the main bell that rang in my life was that experience in 2010. Man, that's the one thing I can't forget about, and the one thing that keeps driving me for immortality is seeing death, seeing into the pit. Man, that was enough for me, and that was enough for me to want to live. You know what I mean? That sucks. Yeah,
because so the Mormons, from what I understand, is they don't actually think anyone ceases to exist. They're very confident of that, and they think that basically everyone goes to a place that is better than here. So,
yeah, that's a good general description, I think, of how things work. I mean, at least from my perspective, you know, the Mormons got that. I could say, if I'm right, the Mormons got that right too. You know what I mean?
So yeah, that's interesting. But actually, I was talking to one Mormon pastor, and he seemed to think that no, there is like a hell that's even worse than this, and some people will end up there. I think they call it outer darkness.
Yeah, Sheol.
Okay.
Sheol, the pit. That's what it is in Hebrew.
I happen not to really believe in. I don't know what I don't know what my thoughts are on hell yet. I mean, I like the idea of hell because I want to just inspire more fear in people. I want people to be more afraid.
Yeah, they should.
You know, so they'll obey the rules because I want them to be like God-fearing people. And a lot of people, they don't even fear the idea of ceasing to exist. Like ceasing to exist isn't bad enough. Like that's why,
and it is ceasing to exist. I'm clear. Like what I'm describing is a lot. It's a lot of the same idea, and the kind of perspective I have on this heaven hell paradigm. It's not like the pagan. You know, there's a place with lava and fire, and then there's a place up that has pearly gates and all. I think that's a bunch of crap. I think that heaven is here on earth. I think that Sheol is just a place, like heaven is here in the future, and then Sheol is this place at the beginning of time where there's nothing. and you're just get sucked by the dynamics of the mathematical system into one side or the other, and that's just not when you die, but when you die, you're gonna get sucked back. But when you breach death and you breach your immortal state, then you go off into infinity. And like imagine thousands of years passing like days. Like that's the kind of perspective we would eventually evolve to have going forward. You know what I mean? And that's like there's a quickening. So there's like this event horizon. You know what I mean? I want to drag you over here to the board again. I'm gonna show you. It's like this shape here. Am I in the right? No. Here we go. Now you're in frame. It's like this shape. It's like a toroid, man. It's like a toroid. One side goes from back to front. This side. So this is our souls dying. All right. So this is hell. We'll define the bottom part as hell. Our souls die and they go back sort of the beginning of time. This is our lives continuing either through resurrection or immortality for the later people, and then they would go to the beginning, and it's this big field. You know what I mean? Of consciousness. And to the consciousness, it's like there's a quickening that occurs that gives it that field shape, but it's not like necessarily inherent. This is like from the perspective of a unit on the timeline, and the outer perspective would be somewhat different, I guess. But,
that is interesting. Yeah, you have one person in the comments mentioned like they're like this person's like a physics professor or something. He's a physics professor. Oh no, he's talking about someone else. But you're into a lot of like interesting ideas that are like very deep. I don't know how you'd describe this stuff. It's almost like quantum archaeology.
Revolve around quantum physics. A lot of my ideas revolve around quantum physics. They revolve around stuff we found out by smashing particles at the Large Hadron Collider. Study guys like Roen and those guys. That was a big eye opener as far as like the fundamentals of the functions of the universe. Like I really suggest anybody who's interested in science go check out quantum gravity research with Roen. Those guys are on point. They got really good math to back up everything they're doing. They got a lot of PhDs working on it too. So it's pretty solid stuff. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with immortality per se, but the kind of technologies that will be unlocked by this sort of knowledge are like being able to materialize things by programming the universe itself. So not creating matter, but converting empty space to matter, which is different. You know what I mean? Through electrical forces. You know what I mean?
Some of this stuff goes over my head. I don't know if I've high enough IQ for it.
Programming reality, man. That's where we're moving toward. I think you're smart. Dude, you're a smart guy. You got it. I think you're keeping up really perfectly.
Well, I'm like philosophically. I think I'm pretty philosophically smart, but when it comes to some of these ideas, it's like
sound mind, man. Stable genius.
Yeah. Let's test my genius out. I thought of a potential downside to this idea that everyone ends up in eternal heaven. Okay, because this is what you think. You think everyone lives forever and basically everyone gets eternal life. Here's the potential downside I can see to that. Like, if people are thoroughly convinced that they're going to get to go to heaven and eternal life, regardless of...
And they're not going to behave now.
Regardless of anything they do, essentially, then they can adopt the whole do what thou wilt mentality, and they could be like, I'll just do whatever I want because I'm going to go to heaven anyways. This is the problem. But they go to hell
first. That's the problem, is you got to go all the way through an eternity of hellfire to get to it. Like, when you die, you're just in this timeless void, so you're just burning for an eternity. And it really sucks. And then someone in the time stream, has to bail you out of the emptiness. And it's like, you know, you have to wait for somebody to get you out of the void, and that's a problem. No one wants to do that. Who wants to spend an eternity in hell?
True. You know what I mean? But if you think even good people have to go through an eternity of hell,
nobody's good enough. Nobody's good enough except for the one. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, here's the thing:
the iteration point, the fractal point.
If like the most evil serial killer and the best person on earth, if they both have to go through the same amount of hellfire, then what's the advantage of being good?
Being good keeps you alive.
So you're saying if you're good enough, you'll never have to die and you'll never have to go through hellfire.
Essentially, if you're good enough, you can avoid it for as long as you can. And that's good enough, isn't it? I mean, no one wants to go there.
As long as you can, but you're saying it is inevitable that everyone will have to go.
It's a chase, and being a good person, it prolongs the chase. But eventually the Reaper does catch up with our flesh, man. We're just limited creatures. You know what I mean?
So everyone, I'm just trying to get this straight. So everyone in your view of things, regardless of how good you are or how evil you are, you'll still have to go through this super hellfire. It's almost like a purgatory. It's like the Catholic purgatory. That's what it reminds me of. So if that's the case, though, it doesn't seem like there's much rewards or advantages to being a good person rather than a bad person.
It keeps you alive. It keeps the person next to you alive so that they can keep you alive. And what else does it do? I mean, there's tons of good stuff that being good does. You know what I mean? Why not be good? You know what I mean?
You still have to die, and you're still gonna, and even the evil people.
Eventually. But you know, there's another aspect of this, and that's suffering. When you're evil, it invites more suffering into your life. So that's another thing. When you do bad things, people loathe you. They do things to spite you, and then you end up with a chain of negative reactions. You know what I'm saying? But if you do good things to people, then they treat you well in general. You know, in general, some people are just twisted, and you can't help them. But you know, if you do the best you can, you'll get the best you can get. You know what I mean? And
this is very interesting and very different than my perspectives on hell. And I actually made a video on hell at a tombstone. It's my next tombstone talk. Have you been watching my tombstone talks?
I'll have to check it out.
I'm gonna be releasing it. I was actually planning, like, it'll be like my next video, I think, that I release. So you're gonna have to watch that, and we're gonna have to have another conversation about hell, because I want your opinions on that video in particular, because it's all about hell. And it's the first really video I've made about hell, because as an atheist for so long, I've never had that perspective. I've never been able to really talk about hell, and now I finally get to entertain
your consciousness, and you went into nothingness. Like, you're not only do you go into nothingness, but you lose your consciousness. Isn't that just really worse? I mean, isn't that a worse hell than hell? That's even more reason to behave. You know what I mean?
Wait, losing your consciousness?
If you lost your consciousness and went into the void, also, that'd be even worse than hell. Now you're losing everything.
At
least I was conscious for the experience. I could think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Losing your consciousness, like ceasing to exist, is the worst. Absolutely.
That's like the worst possible concept that I could imagine.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is, the Bible says, and I don't want to be the Bible says kind of guy, but the Bible does say, Yeshua says that when at the end of days, only one would be lost, and it implies that that's the spirit of death, Satan, right? So, if the Bible is correct about that, what it's saying is that only death will lose its consciousness, and every other consciousness that exists, which everything's basically conscious, sort of, in a sort of universal computational limitations kind of way. There's Stephen Wolfram had this idea. He's a mathematician. I don't know if you heard of him, but he had this idea that he's more than a mathematician. He's a computer scientist. I should be more specific. But anyway, everything in the universe is at a universal level of computational complexity, and in that is consciousness, and essentially you come to the conclusion that everything is a kind of consciousness. And then if you look at the QGR stuff, everything is at root consciousness. And so it's like there's all these, so essentially the only thing that's going to be taken out of the system is entropy or something of that nature. You know what I mean? Or is the force of entropy that renders things to nothing, I guess. If that makes sense. Something like that.
Okay, I have another question for you. So, you don't believe in eternal hell. You think it's a temporary purgatory thing, right?
Kind of, because it's timeless, it feels eternal. But it's not, but because it's timeless, it doesn't have any time either. So it's not eternal, but it's not a limit of time either. It's neither. If that, you have to go out, you have to like imagine time as a number line and then go off the number line into like imaginary numbers territory.
Hey, how could it be neither? It has to be either.
So like if you have imaginary 1, that's neither 1 nor -1 or any other number. It's like it's its own thing. You know what I mean?
No, that's over my head. I think of things as like being binary. So it's like in my mind, hell is either eternal or it's temporary or it doesn't even exist. Like those are my only 3 options.
Physics. You gotta take your head up. You gotta make time into a physical dimension and like wrap yourself around that. So you got forward, back, up, down, and then time. And then if you can imagine things in those terms, then it becomes easy to think, well, what if something gets removed from that situation? What if something's out here where none of that is? You know what I mean? And that's what happens essentially, at least from what I've experienced.
See, yeah, I've never, because maybe you have a different perspective on this stuff, because I've never experienced anything like that. So it's like, this is why I have trouble with quantum stuff. Whenever anything sounds like in the quantum realm, I have a trouble wrapping my brain around it.
The best way to describe it is like if you're in a room with the lights off and it's just totally black and you're not doing anything, you're just sitting there, right? And you're not thinking about what time it is. You're not thinking about what day it is. You're not thinking about nothing. You know what I mean? If you can put yourself in that headspace, then you can it's kind of what it feels like. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Except imagine, I don't know, you got to add some sort of fear element. So imagine the room's filling up with carbon monoxide as well. And also imagine that, yeah, suffocating is a pretty good allegory. So just imagine the room's filling up with carbon monoxide. It's totally black. You're not thinking of anything, and all you can see is black. And you can't hear anything.
Okay.
That's kind of,
but does that state of that description you just said, does that last forever or not? Does it end or does it continue on that way forever?
Feels like forever. Feels like forever, but imagine you're not thinking about what time it is. Imagine you're not thinking about whether or not it's forever or not. And you're just there. And you don't have any way of telling what time it is. And there's no time.
Okay, but it feels like forever, but eventually...
Feels like forever.
Eventually, you come to find, oh, it's over.
Something like, more like you move into eventually, because there's this light over there. And so you move toward the timeline from timelessness.
So that person that's in this hell-like... That person that is experiencing this hell-like darkness that you're describing, that does eventually end.
Kind of.
And then
there's like no concept of time. Because the end of this thing is getting back into time. You know what I'm saying? And so there's no ticks of the clock. There's no like moments. There's no frames of action that are taking place. You're just kind of, it's all internal. Those things are happening internal, so there's like an internal clock, I guess. But there's nothing around you, and there's no... You know, there's no, it feels eternal. It feels eternal. It feels like you're there forever.
It feels eternal, but it's not, because you said eventually everyone ends up in this utopia.
I was only there for 3 hours, dude, but it felt like billions of years, man.
Really?
Yeah, that's the kind of, that gives you an idea.
Wow, that is trippy to me. Wow.
It was like an eternity in hell. I don't know how else to describe it. But I'm here now. Now I'm back in the timeline, and everything makes sense again. And that was only 3 hours here. But there, it wasn't 3 hours. It was like forever. It was literally just forever.
So you feel like you've already been alive for billions of years in hell.
I feel like I've been alive forever, man. I feel like I've been alive forever in hell.
That is crazy. Yeah, that's something I can't relate to at all.
Like a dimension of immortality that projected out of my life into a non-time, non-space anomaly. But
I guess you right now are living proof, if this whole thing is true, that you think people go through this eternity of hell, you're living proof that it's not an eternity, because you escaped that hell.
Not physically an eternity from within the timeline, no. Yeah. Because in the timeline, there is ticking moments, and you are assigned. You are like fixed to those moments. Your experience is fixed to those moments. When you're removed from that, you're not fixed to anything, and so you're just ticking endlessly. You know what I mean?
Hey, someone in the chat said something interesting. They said, Roen, if you ever did DMT, Joe Cole is saying this. Roen, if you ever did DMT or a large dose of psilocybin, you would understand what he means by it feeling timeless and eternal. I can relate. I had a shroom trip in 2013, and I didn't even know what time existed anymore. Yeah, no, I didn't even know that time existed anymore. See, this is so interesting. Like, I can't like relate because I've never experienced this. It might be one of those things where you have to experience it. You have to experience it to really know what this is.
It kind of is, because it's not something that you can find from within 3D time space. So it's not. So until you get the symbols from that higher dimension to reference to. You just don't have that data to you know what I'm saying, to communicate to.
Okay, so Joe Cool is asking an interesting question. So he's saying
missing letters in the alphabet.
He's saying, so do good people suffer less in hell? That's a question from Joe Cool. So I want to know that as well. Do you think good people suffer less?
I have a theory that how far away from the timeline you get may have something to do with how useful you were as a person in life. But I don't know. It's not very well backed. It's just kind of a hypothesis. You know what I mean?
Wait, sorry, say that again. Sorry.
So I blanked out. I have a hypothesis that depending on how good you are in life, that may determine how far away from the timeline you get and thus how deep you go into hell. If that makes sense. So one person's eternity may feel longer than another, if that makes sense. Talking about orders of infinity. You know what I mean? Okay. So maybe it may still be an eternity in hell, but it's like several orders of magnitudes less intense than a worst person's experience would be, maybe. I think because maybe the only reason why I was able to come back is because I didn't go very deep, and then maybe that was because I have always tried to be the best person I could be, despite whatever I thought may or may not be true about the world I'm living in. You know what I mean?
So if you were to die again, hypothetically, do you think you'd go back to that hell-like state?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm convinced. That's why I'm hella scared and working on this technology.
Wow. Interesting. But you think under no circumstance, let me just get this straight. You think in no way ever would you ever cease to exist? You think that is absolutely not an option? Do you think even God himself...
I don't think your consciousness ever goes silent. Because it's not a noise. It's more like a vacuum. It's more like something that consumes than something that produces. You know what I mean?
So do you think even God
the eternal
could destroy you and cause you to cease to exist if he or she wanted to?
You at a timeline, then, but if God wanted you at a timeline, according to the way I'm thinking about this, you couldn't exist in it at all. You'd never be born, and you'd never die, and you'd never see the light of day. You know what I mean? We're here because we were chosen to be here, essentially. Even the bad ones.
I see. And that's why you think even all the very evil people, they'll all end up in heaven.
Yeah. And if I can simplify things to like some core concepts, if you have infinity on one side and then you have nothing on the other, then you can consider like 3D time space as a substrate between which the two are able to communicate. You know what I mean? So we're like a communications layer between infinity and nothing as they're trying to work out what's going to work best for the both of them, essentially, while they try to come to a concurrence. Or either that or infinity just overtakes nothing altogether. But, you know, if that were the case, then nothing could exist. So they're clearly coming to some sort of concordance with one another. The infinite and the nothing, both having some sort of consciousness.
So do you think, like, if you're good enough, is it even possible, like, let's say you're practically perfect, like Mary Poppins, like I like to say, could a practically perfect person avoid this hell, or is just everybody going to this hell regardless of what they do?
Perfect. So, like, I mean, like the apostles, like, you know, like the prophets, I really think they're just in Sheol, man. Everybody goes, as far as I can tell. You know what I mean?
Well, what if you never die? What if you never die ever?
Let's assume these people were so good that maybe their eternity in hell was so many orders of magnitudes less intense. Maybe they don't even go all the way out into the darkness. Maybe there's like some edge realm where spirits can wander around between the walls around us or something. You know what I mean? I don't know necessarily, but I mean, if that's the case, maybe that is the case. You know what I'm saying? If they only go so far away from the time stream, maybe they can stay close enough. Maybe their orbit can be close enough to the time stream when they die that they don't really experience death and hell the way some people might. You know what I mean?
What if you just never die, period? Because you're so healthy and you're being very safe.
Maybe.
Remember your underground bunker, you know, and you're like, you're a health freak like me. What?
There's a passage where Christ said, so what if I make Paul live forever or whatever? What business is it of yours? Do you remember that?
I don't. I know.
It wasn't Paul. I can't remember. It was one of the apostles. He was like, somebody asked, "Is this guy immortal or something?" And he's like, "So what if he lives forever?" Let me look it up real quick.
Well, I know Jesus said, "He who keeps my saying will never see death or never taste death." So Jesus
Yeah.
seemed to be preaching the idea that you might never die.
Maybe you
right?
can hug the orbit so close that you never see the pit. That's a chance. There's a chance. Like maybe you live on as like a ghost that wanders in like apartment buildings, like my old apartment that was haunted. You know what I mean? Maybe that'd be a thing. Let me see. I'm trying to find that passage real quick for you, so I can give you the direct quote because it's important. I don't like to butcher Bible quotes. So, what business is it? Let me see. Just a second.
I guess I want people to like fear.
Someone might know what I'm talking about in the comments, maybe.
See, I guess I kind of orient my my ideas
John
around
22. Sorry.
Like I want people to fear the idea of ceasing to exist, but like my issue with your mindset here is that like if people, I want people to think that like ceasing to exist is a possibility, because isn't it possible? Would you admit that it might be possible that people might cease to exist? Are you open to that possibility?
I'm open to any possibilities, including
good.
Including
good.
That.
So even
very open-minded. Like anything that I think one moment could change in the next moment based on whatever reality is presented to me. You know what I mean? I'm a slave to the truth. So whatever reality says is whatever, and I just, if I'm wrong, I got to suck it up and just eat that egg. You know what I mean?
All right. So
that's how you live, you know?
Oh, good. So it's good that you're basically agnostic about your own ideas, and that you admit that if someone dies, they might cease to exist.
It could be, man. Could be. I could be wrong about everything.
All right. I like that. I like that.
It was humility. Who was it who said, "I know that I know nothing"? Who was it who said that?
Yeah, Socrates, right?
Yep. Yep. One of them old dudes. One of them old dudes.
See, this is good because I like people. Then people should fear. What people should fear is what they fear the most. Meaning, if someone fears ceasing to exist, that's possible. That's a possibility, and they should fear that. And if someone fears eternal hell, like I like to promote, like eternal hell, which is what I'll be promoting in my next video, that's a possibility. They should fear that, right? They should fear whatever is the most fearful thing to them. And any of those things are possible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the fear is good. The reason I promote fear is because I want people to fear the thing that's going to make them the most afraid. Because some people aren't afraid of ceasing to exist. And in that case, I would want them to fear hell because they're more afraid of hell. Some people aren't afraid of hell. And in that case, maybe they should fear ceasing to exist. Like they have to fear something. I want people to
ceasing to exist is worse than what I experienced, because at least I was conscious for it. And it was infinite fear, and it was totally soul sucking, but I mean, that's better than nothing, isn't it? I mean, you gotta say, I mean, that's better than nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything is better than anything in Sheol.
I agree. I would rather go to hell. I'd rather go to hell than cease to exist.
Any earthly pain, I'll tell you this much. Any pain I've experienced on earth, I've had toothaches, I've had all sorts of pains from my accident and all sorts of stuff. Nothing has been so crushing as that experience of being in hell. So I'm glad, even in my suffering, I'm just glad to be alive, man. You know what I mean? For real.
Heck yeah.
Because it's hell out here, man. There's a taste of hell in this world. You know what I mean? There's a taste of heaven too. That's why we stick around. You know what I mean? That's why it's worth kicking. You know what I mean?
Here's an interesting question by Joe Cool. Joe Cool says, maybe the reason he went to hell is because of his previous sinful lifestyle.
Maybe.
And only unrepentant sinners go there. I like that.
Yeah, I want to say I was into like a bunch of magic and stuff. Like I dumped all that stuff after that experience. I mean, it may be that if you're good enough, maybe you don't have to go all the way into the pit. Maybe you get to wander around the halls of like, all these buildings and stuff that were built in the meantime or something while you're waiting to reunite with the flesh or something. I don't know. But with the kind of experience I got, I didn't like, when I fell into myself, I didn't like go anywhere else or nothing. It was just like, I fell into myself. There was this big like fractal checkerboard thing going on. And that's why I have it. If you look at my Twitter heading, that's a generalized.
I saw the fractal checkerboard.
Yeah, it's a generalized sort of visual description of what I saw, like super generalized. What I saw was like so infinitely complex, I can't replicate it. But that was something like that.
Maybe the Illuminati understands your stuff, and that's why they do the fractal.
Checkerboard.
They do
I
the
thought about that
checkerboard.
already. And the fractals, as above, so below. They have a lot of stuff right based on what I experienced. And maybe they tripped on whatever the hell I got dosed with. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's definitely an awakening. I can say that. So it sucked, but it was for the better in the long run, because it corrected the sort of behaviors that would have got me there permanently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Worth it.
I like the idea that if you're good enough, you can avoid hell. Because I want to incentivize being good, and that seems to be a good incentive, is to avoid hell. But
it may be a fact that in the future, when we're trying to bring back these souls, if how deep they go is based on how good they were, they could be harder to retrieve in the future, and therefore not be able to be retrievable until the technology is further refined going forward. You know what I mean? So it would take better antennas and higher quality stuff to get worse and worse people back, maybe. As a concept, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we gotta get to your technology. I really want to understand that stuff of the spirit. What's it called? Like a soul antenna. That's really interesting.
Soul antenna. I kind of said that as a one-off. I really like the idea of a quantum antenna, but because that's what's based on. So let me explain that. In quantum technologies, they've developed a type of sensor that can detect quantum perturbations, and that's extremely important because that's what I think this field is an assembly of, is quantum perturbations. And so if you have these chips, and you can like put them all around the body to like tune in, attenuate that field, right? Then you can, when the body dies, re-attenuate that field and attach other technologies to that antenna, to like a neural network, so that you can think, and memory, so that you could remember things. And another thing I want to do is with this thing that I'm trying to build, the neural transducer, is to record brain activity in such a high resolution that you can get memories, that you can save your memories. So, and that's going to be important because you're going to want to remember the things that happened in your life when your soul is reattached to the new body. So those memories will be stored on hardware and re-uploaded to you. So you'll have all your memories back. You'll have all your facilities back, your brain, your eyes, all the basic equipment that you need for those basic things. You know what I mean?
So you do you think eventually? So you're trying to build a robot body, right?
What's that? My headphones.
You think eventually you'll be completely robotic, right? You want to build yourself a robot body and then transfer your consciousness.
Initially, our initial moves in immortality will most likely be hardware based and robotic. But I think moving forward, we'll refine technologies to where we'll be able to make flesh based bodies, just be able to upload ourselves into like giant gargoyle bodies. Like, remember that old cartoon Gargoyle from the 90s? Gargoyles?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, imagine being able to upload yourself into something like that, or you know, just some random whatever you can come up with. You can make yourself into a car. You know what I mean?
What about curing aging? Is that a thing you want to do?
Yes, I do. I want to preserve the flesh, and so understanding the cure for aging. If we're gonna ever get to where we can make like immortal flesh bodies, we're gonna have those technologies in place. So I don't think anybody should stop those pursuits. I think they should hit the gas, go full force. If they can do that before I can do this, then more power to them. You know what I mean? It's just basically a race. Whoever can get to immortality first by whatever means, and that's what we're gonna go with.
Here's a philosophical question. I think this would be interesting for you to answer. So, you're talking about mind uploading, right? So let's
as a component, but not as the whole.
Okay, how will the consciousness? You think you'll be entirely robotic one day, right? How will your consciousness transfer?
The soul antenna. That's because there's this thing. There's this eternal. Who was it who talked about the eye that doesn't change? I forget. But there's this concept of like inside of you is this witness behind all the feelings and the thoughts and all the emotion is this thing that just sees. You know what I mean? And that's the soul. and that's what antenna. You see what I'm saying? And that's carried on a frequency band in the quantum that's right down at the universal consciousness level.
But how do you know, like, the soul isn't, like, trapped in our physical brains, that it's, like, literally stuck in our physical brains?
Because I don't see any proof of that. They've not proven in science that consciousness is a result of neural activity. Neural activity is at best like a processing function, and I think it's very well evident in neural network systems. They don't exhibit any kind of consciousness, but they do exhibit processing capabilities based on the sort of weights that they use in each layer of the network. And so it's a different way of processing information, but it doesn't necessarily have consciousness in it.
Okay, you know, like the Star Trek. I think this would make it easier for me to understand where you're coming from. Like, you know, the Star Trek transporter.
Yeah.
And like, do you think that will, like, yeah, beam me up, Scotty. Do you think that will kill the person, and then do you think a perfect copy of a person is a transfer of consciousness, or do you think the person is dead and then a new person?
Molecular isn't good enough. Molecular level isn't good enough. In order to get a whole person, you have to go all the way down to the quantum, all the way down to the fabric of reality, because that's the substrate on which we're built, and that's where the pattern for our being exists. You know what I mean? So in order to preserve the consciousness, you have to move it all. You can't just move. You can't just copy one layer of the information. You have to move the whole thing.
Okay, and you think you're going to do this?
It's a murder machine.
And you basically think you're going to need the soul antenna to really get the transfer.
Yeah, perfect. To get everything correct. Yeah.
And you think the science is closer to developing a soul antenna that can transfer consciousness. They're closer to that than they are to actually curing aging.
Well, the device that I want to use, I colloquially called it a soul antenna, but it actually has a proper name, and it already exists. So it's already a thing that exists for quantum computing right now. It's just a different application of that technology.
Different application. It already exists? Wait, what do you mean? What?
So, in order for quantum processors to work, they have to be able to detect quantum perturbations as a result of different flips in the sort of polarities of these quantum particles of the supercooled molecules. In this case, they got to observe these flips, and they need a sensor that detects these quantum perturbations. So that's the sensor that I would use for this purpose.
Oh, so you're using a sensor that already exists.
Yeah, I'm using a sensor that exists in quantum computing to detect the quantum states of the bit that they're using. And that's what I would use to try to, and I would use an array of these to try to detect a signal pattern that would act as a sort of radio station for that soul.
Wow. Did you come up with this idea of the soul antenna, like the entirety of it, or
the application, but not the device? The device is, like I said, it already exists in quantum computing. So I'm just taking that idea and using it for this other line of thought. You know what I mean?
And it has to be like perfected before it actually works and stuff. Huh?
Yeah, I have to do a lot of testing. Nothing's been built yet, so it's all concept level stuff. You know what I mean? But I feel like getting this stuff out there sooner rather than later, like there's no point in trying to protect the copyright or anything on this sort of thing. It's not something I plan on, like, that if I can get anywhere with this, it's not something I plan on profiting from, because there's no point. Like, once we get to that level of technology, like, value has no meaning, and the only thing that has any meaning anymore is creative expression. Because we'll be at the point where we can manifest whatever we want from the quantum up. You know what I'm saying? Using other technologies that will develop once we are immortal, which I have plans for other stuff too that I haven't even talked about. So
you think eventually, like, wait, these immortal? So you think eventually you'll be immortal, and at that point you think you will never be able to die? Like you'll never have to worry about ceasing to exist or nothing like that?
I mean, there's like if the system failed, for instance, you could get dumped back into Sheol. That would suck. But you could just re-attenuate yourself in new hardware and get yourself re-uploaded again. So I mean, in the beginning, we might have to take several dips into Sheol as our hardware like fails in certain parts because it was made in China or whatever. You know what I mean?
Is there any other inventions that you've made that like that you've already like finished that are like that are completed, like completed inventions that actually work and stuff?
Finished technologies?
Mm-hmm.
No, everything's concept level. I've just been working on this one idea since then, and I haven't really built anything yet. But that's why I'm starting to amass tools, because now I'm closing in on what I'm going to need for the concept to work. Now I can start building. So I'm getting tools together, and eventually I hope to build a sort of lithographic silicon printing sort of setup so that I can build the silicon hardware that I'm going to need. It might be cheaper to buy it, but it'd be better if I just had the machine so that I could work on more sort of circuit-based technologies.
Yeah, I bet you want like investors, right? You're going to need money to work on these inventions.
Yeah, investors. Investors. I wish. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I mean, honestly, like this is a really solid pursuit. So, like, people out there may want to get involved. And if they do, they're welcome to. I'm definitely down to team up.
How expensive would it be to like make this thing, right?
Yeah, if I have to do it on my own, it's going to take a long time, probably my whole life. But if I can get help from other humans, it could take exponentially. It could be exponentially quicker based on how many humans help me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of that's the conundrum. But I'm determined to do it on my own if necessary. So
that's good. Yeah, you gotta do it on your own, right?
If I have to.
If you have
to, then I have to. Yeah, because there's no way I can't let it get done and just die. That's not an option. It's on my table right now. I can't go back to that place, so I refuse. You know what I mean? I refuse. I'm just going to live an upstanding life. I'm going to do everything I can to get this technology in place for everyone. And then we're all going to go into heaven together. One way or another.
Let's say, like, hypothetically, you eat the healthiest diet possible. And you eat and you live the healthiest lifestyle possible. You avoid the sun and everything like that, and you're living underground. What is the maximum lifespan of the human body, do you think, just to avoid illness and live forever, just without any intervention at all? Like no technology, no solar antennas, nothing. How long can we live?
Nothing to overcome the DNA unraveling with the, what are they called? The caps?
Telomeres?
Yeah.
Telomeres.
Telomeres, thank you. Telomeres. Nothing for that? I think if you can solve the telomere issue, you can solve like 80% of the lifespan issue. You would have Moses level life at that point, I think.
Like you could solve the telomere issue to the extent that natural diet and supplementation and herbs, that will solve the telomeres. What's the maximum human lifespan, do you think, just with no scientific intervention other than...
No intervention, just diet.
Just diet and supplementation that's available to us right now.
So supplements too.
Yeah.
Maybe past 120. Maybe if you have a perfect diet and a perfect supplement regimen, maybe 150.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic in this regard. See, I put my optimism in like physical longevity.
Yeah.
And like keeping the flesh body, as you said in the comment, you're like, you really want to keep the flesh body alive. That is exactly.
If there's any combination of nutrients that is a key to immortality, you'd be the guy to find it.
That's what I'm trying for.
You'd be the one to talk to. The elixir of life, the elixir of immortality. What is it? The fountain of youth. You're that guy. You're what's his name? Cortez. You're Cortez. Looking for the fountain of youth. Looking for the city of gold over here. Yeah.
So
that's perfect.
Do you take any supplementation or anything like that?
Sometimes I will feel sort of depleted, so I'll take a multivitamin, and that's about as far as I go with supplements.
Okay.
But I'm not heavy supplements. I thought about InfoWars supplements. I don't know though. I'm really iffy about taking things from corporations and putting them into my body. Like I trust things that came off of animals and plants. I mean, even if it's InfoWars, like I trust InfoWars with the news, but I mean, there's probably nothing wrong with the bone broth and stuff, right? But maybe when you're starting to get into heavier stuff, like taking daily doses of iodine, I mean, if you did it right, then it shouldn't be a problem. But if you take too much iodine, you can kill yourself. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, you got to be careful with everything, right? Got to proceed cautiously for sure.
So there's like proceed cautiously. That's the best advice I can give anybody, you know. But you know, any too much of any one nutrient is always a bad thing. You know, you already know that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Is that your laptop that you were talking about in the background?
Yep.
The one that
that's
died out?
That's the dead laptop.
Oh poop. Ah poop.
Yep.
Okay. And it won't boot. And you said it wouldn't give you a screen or nothing.
Won't boot.
Oh, yeah.
Just the light turns on and the.
You don't have another hard drive laying around, do you? Another SATA drive?
No.
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 Oh shoot. Because then you could maybe swap them out and see if it would boot on a different drive.
No.
I don't know.
Yeah.
No promises. I do have an extra laptop. Maybe when I get paid here this coming month, I can send it to you via PO box if it's not too much or something. You know what I mean?
Maybe that'd be cool.
I mean,
is it a good laptop?
Yeah, it's a decent laptop.
Dang.
Well, I got two. Which one would you rather have? They're both about the same amount of power. The cheaper new one or the older good one? They're both at about the same.
I'm gonna go with something with horsepower because I do video editing and it requires crazy good that's a gaming laptop, and I need a good one for like freaking video editing because when you're into video editing,
bottom of the barrel. I'll tell you that they're both kind of bottom of the barrel. This one has I think it's 7. Let me look at it. What does it have? It has an AMD. It just says AMD. It doesn't even say what it is. So, you know, it's not very good if it doesn't tell you what AMD processor's in there. It's an AMD.
It might be good enough. Who knows? I mean, at least it might be good enough to. It would be probably good enough just to do live streaming. Live streaming at the library.
That'd be good enough. You know what I mean? Whatever gets you back on your feet. You know what I mean? That'd be worth doing. Maybe we'll see. I don't know how much it is to ship a laptop though. If it's like $1 million, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's right. The shipping could be freaking crazy, but that's really nice of you. Thank you.
Let's see. How many pounds? What is it? Like 3 pounds? Let's see. 3 pounds. UPS. Let's see what that costs.
Apparently, I could stream from home now, though. So maybe I don't even need to go to the library. If this is working, I wonder if the audio is ever cut out. I'm skeptical because I did live streaming at home before, and the audio sucked. So I don't know how this is gonna sound.
It got a little scratchy. It's been a little scratchy here and there, but I've been able to. It hasn't bothered me. But I don't know. It might bother some more like sensitive ears, I guess. Out there.
Okay, we'll see.
Let's see if I can figure this out. I'm trying to. Oh darn! I'm trying to calculate it.
Joe Cool says the audio hasn't cut out at all. That's awesome.
What state are you in? Are you in BC or something like that?
I can't tell everyone. I'm keeping it a secret. I'll tell you in private, maybe.
Okay. We'll talk about it later. Maybe now is a better time for other stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, that passage. It says, Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved following them. He was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper to ask, Lord, who is going to betray you? And Peter saw him. He asked, Lord, what about him? Jesus answered, if I want him to remain until I return, what is that to you? Follow me. So that's the passage I was thinking about. So, you know, maybe some people don't die. You know?
Exactly. And then there's Enoch, and I think there's another guy.
Here's the thing I want to posit on that. On top of that, a little bit of whipped cream cherry nonsense. That at the end, when we do reach immortality technology, all those people who are around who can get access to it won't die. That's guaranteed. So if we can be around when immortality hits, we're golden. So I just want to add that.
Yeah.
I can't be the only node processing this kind of problem. You're one. I'm one. There's got to be others who want to live forever and are working on some kind of plan. They need to be willing to share it, though, because if they're just doing it for themselves, then that's going to be pointless. And honestly, they might get in their minds to destroy everybody else to try to take everything or something in some sort of sociopathic, domination scheme or something. That'd be
I guess I mean, one of my biggest objectives with the whole Eternal Life fan club is like fear, the path of fear, as I call it, has helped me so much. So I'm just trying to push as much fear as I can. I want my audience
fear for nothing. Everybody like tries to be like, "Oh, fear's the worst. Fear's the worst." Well, why do you have it if it's the worst? Why did God see fit to bless you with fear if it was a useless tool? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like I want to make everyone fear death and fear the hypothetical God. Like those are my two things I want people to fear.
Be afraid. Be afraid to die for sure, because no matter what you believe, death sucks. No matter what you believe, death has to suck. At the very least, you know you're going to get crushed or something, or poisoned to death, or whatever the hell. You know, whatever happens to you is going to suck. And that's just the start. And then after that, it gets worse. Assuming, you know, depending on what you believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So nobody should want to die. If you're an atheist, you have the most incentive to want to live forever, because death in the atheist sort of paradigm is the worst kind of death. You don't even get to think anymore. You don't even get to see or witness or be. But that's the worst kind of existence. Is no existence.
Yeah.
And it's like, if that could even be possible, how were they even born in the first place? If you close all the loops and make the whole thing this sort of closed system that exists in multi-dimensions that beyond the three and time, then it doesn't make sense for them to be able to go into nothing. Like nothing can really be created or destroyed in an absolute sort of sense. It could just be transformed into a bunch of different transformations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people like atheists, like I mean, even my belief regarding death, even though I believe in God, it hasn't even changed. I still think you die, and if you die, you cease to exist. I don't even believe in heaven. I mean,
I don't believe in heaven if you die either. We're on the same page. I don't believe you die and just go to heaven. I think that idea it comes from paganism, and it doesn't say that in the Bible. It comes from like Roman paganism, and it's like it's an ancient paganism going all the way back to the Egyptians. So this binary view of going to heaven, going to hell, Valhalla, or you know, the icy timberlands or whatever the hell. What is it called? What are they? I didn't study much of Norse stuff. It's kind of too far out. The far out stuff I've avoided, like Hindu and Norse stuff, where
Valhalla,
it's a bunch of nonsense. Yeah.
The road to Valhalla. That's like
the road to Valhalla. There's no Valhalla. They're wrong. They read it wrong. They misinterpreted things. There's heaven, but it's in the timeline. It's not another dimension that you can go to. You know what I mean? That's what I believe about heaven. Heaven is a place here when we have the technology for it. You know what I mean?
Heaven is a place on earth, just like the song, you know?
Yeah. Hey, there's a song about it. I didn't know that.
Belinda Carlisle, yeah. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. Yeah, that's a good song.
It's true. True. Absolutely true, man. Heaven is a place on earth. It's just a matter of getting the technology together and getting everything going, man. And we're there. We got all the stuff. We got all these little bits and bops and stuff we can put together to make it happen. And we just got to do it.
Yep. Got to do it. Got to get it done.
Because what these are plans for experiments that I'm going to be doing. That's why I'm buying all this equipment, so I can build these things out and start my experiments. I got to get my lab together. I got to get going. Because I'm not going to live forever. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll be working on the anti-aging side of things and keeping us physically alive, our biological bodies.
I'll work on the lifeboats. Between the two of us, one of us has got to get there, right?
And you'll be working on the other side, the technological potential for whatever mind uploading and becoming a robot. And one of us will get there.
Yeah, or maybe even Elon. Maybe Elon will do it.
Yeah, maybe. What do you think of? He's working on the neural lace, which is to connect the brain with the computers, right? The neural lace.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think there's some danger and present even in that idea, but all technology is dangerous, and we just have to do the best we can to apply it in the best ways we can.
Yeah.
I mean, better people always win at the end of the day, you know? The better, you know what I'm saying? Better minds, better souls win at the end of the day. So I don't think we have too much to be afraid of as far as that stuff goes. But we should be careful. We should be fearful. You know what I mean? We shouldn't be so afraid that we become paralyzed, but we should become fearful enough to understand the urgency of making an immediate decision.
Wait, we shouldn't be so fearful that what? We become
paralyzed.
Oh,
we shouldn't be so fearful that we become paralyzed, but we should be fearful enough, to know we have only a limited time to make our decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the paralyzing fear, and then there's like a productive fear, mobilizing fear. That's what I'm into. Just like fear that motivates us to strive our hardest to live forever.
That's fear properly applied. Fear misapplied ends in the sort of paralyzing fear that gets deers eaten by lions and such, or gazelles, I guess, eaten by lions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Deers by wolves, whatever. You know what I mean?
I guess I still do worry a little bit. Like if people buy into what you're saying, they might not fear
they might not
really
be healthy. They should, and I'll give you that endorsement right now, man. They should definitely do everything you can to stay alive. Don't think that just because my stuff might work that's an excuse to stop like trying to preserve yourself, because it's not. It's not an excuse.
Well, they think if they bought into what you're saying, they think they could essentially be a fat cow and die, and they'll be resurrected anyways and live forever.
They can hope. They can hope, but who's to say I'm going to succeed? You know what I mean? Who's to say this stuff isn't all going to fail? You know what I mean?
That is true. Now, I like that. That's one of my favorite things you said right here, just that it all might fail, and we might literally need to live forever physically and never die.
I'm not overly confident in any of my ideas because they're, you know, I don't identify with my thoughts. I identify with my existence, and that's what I want to preserve. You know what I mean? So any thought can come in and be thrown away. So, you know, in service of truth. You know what I mean? As long as it's accurate to reality. So once I do these experiments, we'll determine if all these hypotheses are correct or just, you know, fantasies. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's all trial and error, you know. But I have a very good hunch based on all these different lines of research that other researchers have done and all these science papers that have gotten over the years, that this is how it's going to work and that this stuff's going to come together. So roll the dice. You know what I mean? See what happens.
It's true. Like we have to, like, regardless of what we believe, we should act according to what's possible. We should act according to the worst case scenario, right? And the worst case scenario is that we have to live forever physically and never die, right? Because we don't know that there's anything after life, and we don't know that there's any way that we might be resurrected. Like that all might be just
we don't know. Totally, we don't know.
It's in the realm of wishful thinking, right?
It's on the verge of wishful thinking. I would say that.
Yeah,
it's on the verge of wishful thinking.
Yeah,
it really is.
And so some people would say the whole
exercise caution. It's a good motto.
Yeah, and some people would say even eternal, just trying to live forever is wishful thinking. But we have to try. Like we have to, like
it's a double-edged sword. Like you don't want to get so far off in a fantasy, so far off with your imaginings that you get into the realm of fantasy, but you don't want to get so, you know, tied down and bogged down with fear that you become immobilized and paralyzed. So there's like a paradigm. You have to be willing to take shots and willing to take risks, but also make sure your shots and risks are very measured and that you comprehend things from a statistical perspective. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm always operating from. My mind is like a statistical machine. You know what I mean? It's like a bunch of statistics rolling around.
All right, someone is asking a question. Kenneth is asking, is he a scientist? I'll let you answer that.
I'm not accredited, but I study science. I don't believe in university, and I don't believe in collectivized education as a general principle, because those things they're brainwashing factories for people who need help learning. I've never needed help to learn anything, so I never found any use in university or any kind of collectivized education system.
And speaking of science, let's talk about when I think of science, I think of the whole resurrection thing, like physical resurrection. What are your thoughts as far as like what type of strategy we could use right now with things that are currently available to us to resurrect ourselves? Because I have the idea that like we should do these like an adrenaline shot could help, and like an electrical, you know, those
if you're on your deathbed, do resuscitate. They resuscitate. They do have the adrenaline, they do have the shots. You know, definitely do resuscitate. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot we could do right now, just as far as like to resurrect ourselves. What are your views on caffeine? Poison or what?
Oh, I I actually drink yerba mate, so yerba mate is a source of caffeine, but I'm against coffee because coffee is really high in acrylamides. It's a burnt food, and so it's black. It's been burnt to literally a black food, and it's filled with toxins. That burning process of the beans, the roasting, it creates a lot of carcinogens. And Starbucks, they have
I get a lot of acid reflux from coffee.
You get acid reflux from coffee?
I love the flavor of it, but it's like I get a lot of reflux.
Yeah, so. That's probably your body reacting to the toxins in it. Like hell yeah, no. They say it's very acidic. It's got a lot of acids.
I don't seem to have problems with energy drinks. I'm drinking a lot of energy drinks. How do you feel about taurine and those sorts of things? Additives in energy drinks.
I think those are good. I'm not against most of the additives. I mean, I'm against the artificial sweeteners that most energy drinks have.
I don't do those. I don't do any kind of phenylturonics. What are they called? Phenylturonics, whatever. Phenylene type sweeteners or any type of wood alcohol derivatives.
Aspartame, sugar alcohols. Most of those things are pretty toxic. Yeah,
wood alcohol, man.
What?
Wood, they brew the wood in giant vats, and then they get the alcohol that they get from brewing this wood, and that's it. And it's like turpentine, man. It's like the worst kind of it's poison, straight poison.
Oh wow, yeah. I don't know how a lot of these things are made, but yeah, from what I've studied, they're really bad for your health. Did you take time to study nutrition and health and stuff? Do you ever do that?
I dove into it. I think a lot of the stuff that you've told me though is new stuff that I hadn't heard in my various studies. Because I have studied some bits of nutrition here and there along my journey, but you seem a lot more centered in it than I am.
Yeah. How long have you been watching my YouTube for a while?
Shoot, I don't know. For a long time. It popped up one day, and I've just been watching it.
I saw you in the comments a while back. Yeah.
Yeah, months.
I'm glad you reached out to me. We'll have to talk again. This is we don't want this too long, or no one's gonna watch it, right? So.
Right. True. How long have we been here? Hours?
I don't know. I was actually planning on going to the hot springs today.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna roll one up.
Any other topics we might want to cover? Have you been ever looking at the live chat here?
The live chat, I haven't. Should I have been?
Oh yeah, the whole live chat's been going on this whole time.
Let's see. Where's it at?
That's why I've been throwing you some questions from people from the live chat. I
can't find it. Where's it hiding at? Where'd they hide it?
I'll share my screen. Well, let's look through the live chat really quick. So it's fun. It's fun to engage the live chat a little bit here. Here we go. I'm sharing my screen right now. Boom. There's the live chat. You see it?
What do I do in real life? I'm just a retired. I'm a veteran, and I live on disability. That sums it up the best. I got all these injuries and stuff, and so the Army cuts me a check. You base your experiences, yeah. In science papers, absolutely, yeah. I mean, papers are that's where the information's at, man. I don't believe in going to university, but I believe in research and researchers. And so science papers, I'm paid for a lot of journals in the past. I mean, it's worth doing. It's worth supporting the science community, even if you don't necessarily support the academic community, if that makes sense.
Hey, Joe Cool.
There's researchers out there doing good stuff.
Certain foods boost telomerase. Do you know which foods do? I do.
That'd be good information. I don't.
What I've heard is that astragalus root is a Chinese herb that really boosts your telomerase, and it enhances your telomeres. So I take it. Brew it up as a tea.
Find it.
Oh, and guess what? Guess what shortens your telomeres?
What?
Coffee.
Oh man, you're kidding. So yeah, that's not a good way to live. That's why everybody who drinks coffee habitually looks older faster. I never put two and two together, but I'm thinking about heavy coffee drinkers in my life, and first thing that comes into mind is wrinkles in the eyes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like
so Joe Cool says he's trying to describe your technology here. So he says, so basically you hook up a machine to your head and it picks up the quantum signature of your brain. Is that about right?
Your brain picks up this quantum signature that exists as a substrate of your whole geometry. So it's backwards.
All right. Someone's talking about a dead cat. What the
Oh, you're
heck
talking about,
are
but
they
I think he's talking about the neural transducer. The neural transducer, yeah, it doesn't just pick up, it just picks up brain activity. So it's like a CAT scan, but like a high resolution CAT scan. I think that might be what he's talking about. Because there's the neural transducer array of lensing field sensors, and then there's the quantum antenna. That's a different technology and a different application that handles the soul side of things. So the memories and the thoughts are separate from the soul as parts of a whole system.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Kenneth says he'll pass on hell. I think we'll all pass on hell.
I'll pass on hell.
But the God I believe in is a very judgmental God, so you got to be very afraid, because this type of God will definitely send you to hell if you're
I think he's
bad
asleep. I don't think it's that he's judgmental or that he hates. I think he just sleeps. And so he doesn't, so like, you have to call his attention to you to get his blessing, and then when he turns away, that's when bad shit happens. So it's not him doing the bad things, it's the lack of him that does the bad things, if that makes sense.
See, I my conception of God is like
consciousness of the gaps.
My conception of God is like he's like watching people, judging them, and like making a list. Like it's kind of like Santa Claus, you know, making a list, checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty or nice, and he's like gonna judge everyone. And like he's
breathing is a blessing. Think about that. If he decided not to give you the blessing of breathing, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So that's a good way to look at it. I mean, it's still saying the same thing, you know, but it doesn't describe the negative behavior to him either. You know what I mean? It makes it to where his inaction becomes the negative.
But sometimes I think like even God's action is the negative, because like he's like purposely destroying people's lives.
Like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Exactly, like Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Good point. I'll give you that. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think he is a judgmental God in that he won't let one individual destroy the rest.
Right. Like revenge and justice. Like if you cross the line, you know, if you're doing all this evil stuff, like
it's real.
Yeah, God's gonna judge you, right? Set you straight and destroy you, maybe.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, a deathist in the comments said we're all gonna die. Deathism.
If we don't do something, that's why we gotta get mobilized. That's why we gotta get moving, so we don't end up.
Well, at least they had a sad face, so they're at least sad about the death. But still fatalism. There's some more.
Somebody said they'd rather not exist than go to hell. I disagree. Because even though what I experienced is probably worse than anything you've experienced here, not existing, I can almost imagine would be worse. Because you've got even less at that point. You got even at least in hell you have yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Unless hell is way worse. Unless what you experienced isn't the real hell, and there's a real hell that's way worse. It's way worse. It's like
I just got a taste, like an inkling.
Exactly.
That's a scary thought, and I've thought about it.
The real hell. That might have been
like, what if God just gave me a little tour of the entryway to hell, and I never even went into the total bottom of the abyss. And maybe at the bottom of that abyss is the total loss of consciousness whatsoever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe at the bottom of that abyss is being erased from the time stream altogether. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it might be like way worse than we could even imagine. It might be like the worst suffering ever for eternity, and it might never even end. There might be no escape from it.
Right? Man, it's such a deep concept, hell.
It is. It is. All right, what else we got here? Any more interesting comments?
Let's see.
See, Darkspawn thought it also looked very much like purgatory.
Purgatory, yeah, that's something I've heard. I mean, kind of, yeah, maybe they're the same root idea. Sheol, purgatory, the place where the good and the wicked both go. Why not? The search for eternal life in a non-eternal realm is futile. But you're not. But we can make the realm eternal, so that's not really a problem.
All right,
That's
let's end
the
on this.
Death argument, just rephrased.
All right, let's end on this question, and then I gotta go to the hot springs. But let's both answer this question. So I'll let you go first. Lilith asks, "What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of life, Alex?"
I don't know. The purpose of life is to serve the live stream. The meaning of life, I guess, is to exist in service. Makes sense, I guess. That's what I would give. That's my answer. I'll lock it in.
All right. My answer is the meaning of life is to live forever. And
good answer.
Well, and while you're at it, help other people live forever. So I like the service thing. I can go with that for sure.
It's a very similar answer. Let's do a fist.
Yeah.
Let's do a fist.
Fist bump. Wait. Fist bump. All right.
Great.
Cool. It's great hanging out with you, man. Great meeting you, and this is a fun conversation. You're into some interesting stuff, and it's cool.
You too, man. You too. Heck yeah. We're on the same team, brother. We're gonna make it.
Yeah.
Make it. Right on, man. Heck yeah.
Right. And thank you guys, everyone in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for making this cool with all your comments and questions.
Heck yeah.
Peace out. May you guys all live forever.
May you all live forever, man. Have a good one.
If you're good, and if you're worthy.
Yeah, if you can make it. Worthy. If you're good and you're worthy and you can make it.
Yeah.
These things are all intertwined.
Yeah.
Yep. Heck yeah, brother. Sweet.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
Until next time.
Heck yeah, man. You can hit me up